Alrighty, welcome back to the Movie Whale Marathon. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Mac.
And we are wrapping up our obscure fantasy movie marathon and maintaining their tradition of the last movie of our marathon being one of the worst. I said what I said. I said what I said. We'll get into it. We are on
We
the
can
secret...
hang up now. It's fine. I
we
will
are
not
on.
stop
I
slander
knew
this
you were
movie.
gonna fucking love this
You
movie. I
and
knew
I,
it.
we, I am gonna fight you.
I knew it. I just knew. I felt it in my bones. It was like, this movie is about this little girl who gets sucked into a world of adventure and has a dog and a rabbit, and Mac is gonna love it. Anyway, we were on The Secret of Moonacre. Came out 2008, directed by Gabor Suspo. I don't know. That's an interesting last name. Adapted from The Little White Horse, which I have not read. And then it's kind of funny. Costume design is credited before like what it made. Came out August 12th, 2010, but this also says 2008, so sometime in the late early 2000s. Starring quite a fun little cast. We have Dakota Blue Richards as Maria. Ewan Grufford, Mr. Fantastic, as Sir Benjamin Merriweather. He's miscredited here as Rolf. That is not who he is.
No.
Augustus Prue as Robin. Tim Curry, of course. Natasha McElhone as Loveday. And then Juliet Stevenson as Miss Heliotrope, and Andy Linden as Marmaduke, and a handful of others. So, yeah, this movie, my God, what a boring snooze fest. Nothing happens.
Tell me about it first.
Nothing. Okay, so this was my first time seeing this movie, and you have conditioned me, Mac, through some of these absolute bangers that I was not expecting. With The Never-Ending Story, and then we also watched Pagemaster, and then Inkheart was interesting, and Stardust was incredible.
You're gonna argue that Inkheart was better than this movie?
Yeah, I will. Absolutely, not by much. To be honest with you, not by much. But this is so I went in totally ready, especially the later ones. I have more of a interest. At first, I was like, this is kind of interesting because this feels like a culmination of all that came before it. We've got a kid given a book. We've got, out in the countryside, maybe a fantasy world. We've got a past with dueling factions like the Dark Crystal. We've got maybe a descendant of a magical person in some way. We've got a fallen star style.
Kind of a fairyland.
Yes. Like, we got a lot going on. There's like, this is very cool. And then it just kind of kept going, and almost nothing happens for an hour, and then after that hour, a little bit of something happens, and then that thing keeps going for a while, and then the day is saved in the end, which is all good and fine. I walked away unsatisfied, bored, and with a bazillion questions, even more so than...
The questions are fine, because there's a lot in this movie that goes unanswered.
I have so many questions, like, even more than I did for Stardust, but I think they're way more justified than Stardust. So, yeah. Also, I feel like there's probably more... parallels to Romeo and Juliet that I'm aware of since I haven't read it. I could not care less. This doesn't even feel like a nice parody or a magical version of Romeo and Juliet. Not enough of it is explored.
I don't think it's meant to be Romeo and Juliet.
I thought maybe it was, because
there are star-crossed lovers, but I think the star-crossed lovers exist to highlight the cultural tensions over time in the Valley. Like the fact that there have been several attempts to heal the wound between the two families, and none of them have been able to actually cross the divide.
Okay.
Which is a little Romeo and Juliet-esque. Because, like, Romeo and Juliet-esque is usually referring to the fact that, like, love conquers all consequences. That's not really
I thought that it had something to do with the families that hated each other and there being
I mean, Romeo and Juliet is, like, the original families hating each other, star-crossed lovers thing, and that trope does show up in this story. but I don't think that this is meant to be Romeo and Juliet redone.
Okay.
I think it's meant to be more than that.
Gotcha.
It's and happens to have star-crossed lovers to express the political tensions and how we're trying to resolve them.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what you think of it? See if I am just completely missing something and I'm just wrong.
This is, I don't know if you're familiar with like The Little Princess or The Secret Garden, but those are like some classic upper elementary like female book reads, in the sense that they are largely realistic. There's no fantasy element to them, but they center on a girl in a tragic situation, trying to deal with that tragic situation, usually by finding a secluded spot where they can imagine the world to be a better place than it is. This is that, but like fantasy, so that imagined place actually exists and she can actually make a difference. And I think that's so interesting, just in the sense that like we start with our classic, we get orphaned, right? The father dies, apparently the mother was already gone, so we have to send her to some distant relative, completely upend her, right? And that sets the tone for like our character. I love the fact that she's not a smiley female character. I love the fact that she just sort of like is a little bit stony faced. She's not necessarily dour by any means, but she doesn't have a lot to genuinely smile about. So she doesn't, which is great. We don't see that very often with female protagonists. She's also pretty capable. Like when she finds herself in new situations, handling situations. She gets to, well, actually, before we even get to Moonacre, we have this attempt to rob the carriage. And she and her handmaid, or nanny, Miss Heliotrope, they successfully fight off said attackers, which is a nice turn of pace. Like, not that they like necessarily were fighters. You know, we're not doing random ninja moves here. It's just she has a sharp object, and so she stabs hand. Perfect. That's what you would do in a situation like. We get to the uncle's house. The uncle is awful, but you don't really see until a rewatch. Everything the actor does is a choice about grief, and it's really interesting because the first time I watched it, I just didn't like it. And I felt like Loveday didn't like deserve him, in the sense that she was better than him, and I was kind of irritated that he's a part of the end. You're a part of the problem, sir. I don't like you. But if you rewatch it, the script is written well enough where Miss Heliotrope, or our main character, whose name I
Maria,
there we go. Maria, they always say or do something that would trigger like a memory for him that would send him back to the day when he ruined his life.
Sure.
And I don't know, there's so much like subtle interaction happening that, sure, they're not like drawing swords and fighting each other, but she is navigating a new environment that she's in and learning the new rules that she lives under, and they're weird. Like, she has a room up in the tower, which is not normal for the time. Like, you would normally be whoever your, like, I guess for lack of a better word, help is, you know, like, so she can help her get dressed, for example. And she goes up to this tower, which is isolated and kind of looks like a jail cell. And you walk in, and the room is beautiful, and the stars twinkle. And when you wake up, there's cookies and milk for who's put that there, right? So she has to kind of figure out what her surroundings in her new world is. And I like how it all with this prophecy too. I don't know. I can see what you're saying in the sense that it travels very far. It doesn't go a whole lot, but everything that happens in the film for reason. Everything moves together, and I like that it centers on what you might call a traditionally female way of problem, which is finding what the core of the problem is. And while these other people are fighting big ideas, they have these huge grudges, she's like, I'm not going to participate in all that. I'm just going to fix the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't really know what the issue is. For the time she doesn't solve the problem. And it's not until she gets more of an understanding about the rules that she's playing and that she's able to find them and then solve the problem. I don't know. I think I just enjoy the journey of the character, learning the new rule set, learning the environment that she's been put in, finding out that she has a responsibility, and actually trying to help rather than being resistant the whole time, being dragged around by the plot per se.
Sure, yeah.
I think it works.
I think that's fine, and I think it technically works, but it's like, that's so much more is needed for this to be like a good movie, for that to even matter. Because she's the new Moon Princess. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see that. Why is she the new Moon Princess? Not a clue.
That's a good question.
That just happens? And then,
we don't. Yeah.
Also, it's not made clear fast enough that these characters are not the same characters from the opening of the movie when she reads the book. Like, because, and I'm slightly conditioned because of the marathon we've had, but it's like, okay, so these are fantastical beings. These are fairies or elves or ghosts or demons or who, I don't know, name it. So that this is Mr. Fantastic and he's the same. He's just shaved. And it's Tim Curry, so he's the same guy. And this, Loveday is the same lady. Like, there's no reason until that guy is leaning up against a coffin halfway through the movie to think these are different people. So that was weird, because
fair.
They're doing it's this history repeats itself kind of thing, but also really subtly until it's right in your face that everything is happening the exact same way. For some reason, the genetics have kept up where they're the same exact looking people. And then in the flashback, Mr. Fantastic doesn't have a brother. Fine. But now modern day Mr. Fantastic did have a brother. Who's the brother? No one fucking knows. He doesn't matter at all. Is he significant? I don't know. I spent the first half of the movie thinking, like, okay, the pearls revealed Mr. Fantastic's true intention. So his brother is the one who ended up with the Moon Lady, and she has passed, and he sees her in Maria, and, misses his brother as well, because he screwed it all up. None of that is here. She's not even a descendant of the Moon Princess. She's just a Moon Princess, because... And then it's like, are they in a fantasy world or not? Because they just come from London. And these two weird fantasy families can come and go very easily. Because the dad did. But there's magical creatures. There's the weird black lion and the unicorn. And then there's this cook. Is he an elf? Is he a critter? Is he a goblin? Is he just a dude who is imbued with magic? Not made clear at all. But magic has returned to the realm, and this is what really bothered me. This bothered me a lot. She has to find the pearls. Fine. Classic fantasy thing. We have to find the thing, the special thing. And I was like, she reads that bit that they have to find the pearls, cuts to her reading it, and the pearls in the book are glowing, and I'm like, yes. They're right there.
That bothers me.
They're right there. That's so interesting. They put the pearls in the book. The dad had it the whole time. He took it away from Moonacre. Oh my gosh. And now she's brought it back. This is so interesting. And then it's like, well, no, she hid them in a tree. And I was like, oh, you cheeky bastard. They're going to go find that tree. It's going to be a stump. Because they cut down the tree and they turned it into the book. Oh, how brilliant. How good. And I'm going to complain to Mac when we record that she never looked at the fucking book and saw pearls that were literally glowing right in front of her. None of that is a part of the story.
I have always wondered why they decided to let the pearls glow in the book. Why? I didn't understand that.
They're right there. And honestly, they look more like pearls than the actual pearls. I get that pearls don't all have to be perfect spheres, but these just look like rocks you put in a fish tank when she ends up finding the actual quote-unquote pearls. It was weird. And don't even get me started on the powers of the pearls. The powers
I
of the
like that
pearls
they
are
were
weird.
more natural looking.
I feel like they're
It felt more like nature's gift.
it felt a little too elliptical for some of those pearls. Okay, just a tad.
Okay.
And then what's the significance? What's the significance of the story? Who wrote the story? Like there's so many questions. And then the moon
But
is
the
gonna.
story has to happen so that
No, I mean like
she knows what
who?
the history
Yes,
is.
but who wrote the book? That's the thing. Who wrote that? Why is that a thing? Which family did that?
I
And
always
who's
assumed
allowed
it
for
was the
that?
first moon princess.
Okay, well if she did that, how did that family get a hold of it? Because she didn't end up marrying the guy, so the moon princess wasn't a part of it. And so like there's so many questions, and I understand some of them are nitpicky, some of them are Stardust-esque, others are not. There's too much here that goes completely unsaid. Because like, why is Loveday an exact replica of the first moon princess? Is she a descendant?
I think they just didn't want to hire another actress.
Which
It's
is
meant to be symbolic.
yeah, but I also get that she kind of is a descendant because she is a part of the family of the Dwars or whatever. But like, still, it's just. And then so like the land is cursed. Okay, that's yeah, I get that because two guys were bad. So you curse the land for a little girl 385 years later to fix it. Lady, you have the pearls. You could just fix it right now. Men don't deserve the pearls. You have found that to be evident. Return them to the ocean. You could do it right then. Why not do it then? What was the reason not to do it then? And fine, there is a reason to do it then. I don't remember because I'm an idiot. Let's just say. So you curse the land, which means the moon is gonna crash into the earth and wipe out the whole world. I can only assume because there's no cute little brick wall that we walk through to imply that Moonacre is anything more than an estate. There's just this two magical-ish families that exist somewhere in England, and because they're having a feud over pride, they're going to wipe out the whole world with the moon. This
Is in
ridiculous.
the realm of things that if you look at it like a science fiction story, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at it as a fantasy story, in like a legend mythology thing,
Madam,
it does.
Madam, I rebuke you. No, no.
It's not about the science of the moon. No. Otherwise, there would have been flooding.
No. Oh, don't you even get started with me. First of all, fantasy deserves better than what you were saying right now, okay? The sci-fi comparison does not matter in the slightest. We see her vision of the moon crashing into the world. You think that's only going to apply to this one tiny little estate in England? The rest of the world is fine?
And I think it is meant to be, like, this whole thing is a metaphor for how people have to get over grudges and beef with people, otherwise the world will be destroyed.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but like you could still find a way to illustrate it as like the moon as a persona that is going to interact with the world in such a way that wipes off this chunk of the world. You could say we're in a fantasy realm. You could say that gateway is the doorway to this world. Like she is commenting on the fact that the moon is getting closer. If you go to France, is it going to be closer or is it going to be far away?
I always get the sense it wouldn't necessarily, although this is supposed to be like a microism of like the whole world. This is supposed to be a moral that applies to anywhere at a time, so it wouldn't, like, I don't feel like there's a wrong answer. If it only destroys Moonacre, it's because it's Moonacre's curse, but if it destroys the whole world, then it kind of drives the point home about how every holds grudges.
I think you still could illustrate that in such a way where it's not so unclear. Okay, fine. The moon thing, sure, you can wipe that away. You cannot just gloss over how she's a new moon princess. I need to know why and how that is, because if you wanted to really get into the whole, you want to have her fix the feuding, but it's like one of the families is clearly antagonistic, so it's not even that there's like equal perspectives here. Like you have one robbing people and one just grieving because there's just apparently a whole clan of Duanars, Nuardas, whatever they are. They have a whole mini kingdom, but the Merryweathers are two brothers and a cook who's not even a Merryweather, and the Merryweathers have
it's left brain, right brain.
Whatever. But like the Merryweather Moon Princess is valid, but like who isn't a moon princess? Like, why? There's been a bunch of moon
So a moon
princesses.
princess is anyone who has an opportunity to heal the divide between the two families. Love Days was the fact that she fell in love with someone from the other side and therefore might be able to make it work. The reason that Marie is a love
Maria.
because she comes from the outside and she doesn't have the prejudices ingrained in her.
I think it's not. I think they should have had that conflict there. That they weren't like the one side wasn't crazy about one of the families having a moon princess. Like I don't know. That was like it seemed like it was taking a side, and I feel like we're not supposed to take sides here. But you have one side that has the moon princess, who's the protagonist, and one side that is antagonistic towards the moon princess. So you aren't giving me many reasons to want this feud to end, and I do think they get over it very easily in the end. It's just, yeah. Well,
I do think
fine.
they get over it rather easily in the end. I've always excused that just for like it being
A kids
essentially
movie.
kids literature, but it does happen rather quickly. I will mention that the resolution of the story is shockingly quick. I think the only reason logically why they do kind of get with it is because Loveday and Benjamin Merriweather have already done a lot of the mistake of blowing up and buying back into the feud and realizing that they're not happy that way. So like if Loveday and Benjamin are the new heads of their household, Benjamin already was, but Loveday kind of gains hers, right? Then you could kind of argue that the resolution is earned, but I think it's a little rushed,
Sure.
even
Yeah.
still with that
And I,
logic.
I do think there's a missed opportunity to have just a really frank, honest, genuine conversation that kids could understand of there's the funniness of them both expecting the other to apologize, but there could have been
Yes,
a conversation where they both actually do. Because yeah, he freaked out,
yes,
and that was an over exaggeration. However, it's totally valid to feel betrayed and lied to if the person you've now fallen in love with has been lying to you for X number
yeah.
of whatever. Like, take the
It's meant to
pride
be
away.
understandable from both sides,
Yeah,
for sure.
I think yeah, but like I don't think we address it adequately enough, and then have a resolution
Sure.
in the end.
I do like I think that's a part of the rush at the end where like just because she was willing to sacrifice herself, everyone thing is fine now. I feel like that doesn't totally logically hold up
Yeah,
from the rest of it.
I don't know what that's
But I
supposed to
think
be.
I think I think I think what it's supposed to be is she's technically a Merryweather, right? And she is willing to die to solve the problem. And then because Robin has had, we haven't even really mentioned Robin, but because
Mm.
Robin has journeyed with her and comes to care for her, because he's genuinely upset, and Loveday is upset, and Benjamin Merriweather is upset that she's dying, the family's kind of come into agreement for the first time in hundreds of years. And it's supposed to be like they gave back the pearls and they agreed on that this wasn't worth it simultaneously at the, and that's why the curse is lifted. It's just a little, it feels like a loophole rather than actually solving the, you know,
Mm.
like in order to actually solve the feud, you have to do more than just, and so
Yeah,
yeah.
I did think when she found the pearls on the neck as a necklace on the statue, I was really disappointed. But then when they kept coming back when she threw them, I was like, oh, here we go. It's because they're not the pearls, and the pearls are in the book, and I was right. But no, I wasn't.
No, yeah. I still I think it's a mistake. I think the movie wanted the book to feel magical, and so it was talking about magical pearls, but it was a mistake. It makes you
That's
feel
yeah,
like that's where the pearls are hiding,
yeah,
especially since it's been away from Moonacre for so long
yeah.
with her father. I don't
When the
know.
cook guy says the magic has returned, it's like, okay, just because
Yeah.
she's a moon princess, but like that's the other thing is, oh, magic has returned. Okay, cool, but like, what are the rules of this magic world? Do people use magic? Are there magical creatures? Because like, yeah, there are
I
magical
think
creatures, but like, are there?
it's meant to be an enhancement of nature itself. Like a literary metaphoric in nature. Nature and the world is beautiful and wonderful when you care for it. When you put your own needs in front of it, the magic, the
Well,
land dies.
okay, sure, I get that. The dog transforming into a lion is a little
It's just straight up
heavy-handed.
magical.
It's just like it's pretty magical. And then the horses and unicorn running out of the water, are pretty magical.
Right.
So,
This is fantasy still, but it's
yeah,
meant to be like,
I'm fine with
you
that.
know.
I just feel like it's missing something. We're either doing this kind of grounded, very natural esque magic system similar to like the Spiderwick Chronicles, in which there is just this added layer of nature that people don't see or appreciate that does exist in a supernatural element, or we're doing something like Narnia or Stardust, in which I feel like we're missing something. Like the house is supposedly magical, the piano plays by itself, and things move around. It's like, yeah, but like we don't get to see a lot of that. It almost looks like it's implied that you see magical things and others don't, which is a delicate road to go down, because then you could just get into, is she just seeing things?
Is she crazy?
Which, like I just, when you do stuff like Stardust did it, I think really really well. Even though I wanted more explanations for it, you're in this world of magic, so you have people harnessing lightning, and there's weird potion sellers, and people are transforming into animals, and people, like all this. You go into this magical estate, and you have a piano that plays by itself. My first thought, ghosts, like straight up, but we don't ever explore that. And then we have this.
I assumed magic piano.
I assume ghosts, like someone's playing the piano, and then we have this little cook who I cannot like. My first thought was like, oh, he's got an elf, but he's not an elf. It's like, oh, is he super fast or is he teleporting? Is he moving through time? Who's to say? Not made clear. He seems to just move quickly.
Marmaduke is a genuine mystery. I kind of like it that way. Like, I don't feel like we have to know how everything works.
But we don't know how anything works.
The like soft magic systems seem to really bother me. So I can see how.
I mean, it's a little bit like there's just so many questions, because again, the characters aren't the same characters. So like, why has the lion decided to stay with the family forever and just turn into a dog? Why? I just
because
could be, but like, see, I don't think it's wrong of me to assume that the dog doesn't represent the lion, because dogs and cats are very different. I thought he was like a hellhound.
I did think that was weird.
I thought they had a different magical creature. And then he walks past the mirror, and I'm like, okay, get how in some ways that's obvious. At the same time, I would say no, it's not. But
I go back and forth on that one. I think that actually has more issue to do with our perception of lions in fantasy than with anything else, because we imagine lions to be like these protectors, herald regality, and lions just kind of because they're cats, but they're mean. And so like I think they want the lion to be a symbol of courage and protection, and in the same way, a large dog be a symbol of protection and a threat at the same time, right? And so that's where the logic and the transfer, but it feels wrong because a lion isn't that, and dogs and cats feel more opposite in our brain than the magic of the connection between the two do.
Right.
So I do kind of, the lion transformation has always bothered me. The only thing that has kept me from complaining about it is that I can't imagine a better version. Like, I don't want the lion to turn into so I don't have a better answer.
I think you don't, for one, you don't have to have it be a lion. You could have...
It could be a wolf.
Yeah, exactly. You could have this great big CGI mythical wolf thing, which is, again, a huge part of old English tales. More so than lions are, because lions were not indigenous to that area. So you could do something like that.
Well, lions were adopted as a symbol pretty early on in England, sort of like beginning. They imagined themselves with lions quite a bit.
Yes, so were dragons. You have lots of options here. Your hands aren't tied. So if you want to, you could do a bear, and that would align with a dog a little bit better. There's many big protective furry things you could do that aren't. Because even if I don't even know how old the book is. It's old. It's young enough that I feel like if in the book the lion is a lion that then turns into a dog, it's a strange decision. I think it could have been something better. Because they have
the other magical creature that is sort of like threaded throughout this story is the unicorn, right? The white horse. And there is an old dichotomy between a lion and a unicorn that I feel like is particularly European, if not particularly British. I'm not entirely sure about this, like I'm working based off memory, but there's a whole sort of almost a yin yang thing with lions and unicorns in mythology and legends, where they are often paired with each other and or used as noble enemies fighting over a crown. And I wonder if the story was trying to play with that particular dichotomy. I don't know that that's a good enough reason to go with a lion, but I will tell you that a lion and a unicorn in a is far more iconic and common in imagery, legends, fantasy than
Fair.
a unicorn and a wolf would be.
That's fair. I think there's some messy symmetry, I think. Because it kind of feels like the wolf, I'm sorry, not the wolf. Rolf, the dog,
Ralph.
who is the lion, he is on the side of the Merryweathers. He is like the right hand, the protective right hand of the Merryweather family. And in the story, though, the unicorn, who is in this dichotomy with the lion, is no one's. Even though in the story in the beginning, it was on the side of the is it Denoir or
Noir. It's supposed to be French, which is another dichotomy thing that they're bringing up here. But like the night or of black is the idea.
Okay, yeah, the noirs. I'm just gonna say noir. The unicorn was a gift from that side, but that dichotomy or that comparison or that symmetry is lost because that family doesn't use the unicorn for anything. The unicorn is helping her, as
they
is
use
the lion. They use a what?
They have the heart symbol.
Oh, okay.
Like that's on their shield.
Lovely. That's amazing. They use a falcon. That's their animal agent. She rescues a hare. She has been pursued by a predator and she is protected by a predator, and she herself is then connected with the unicorn. So I thought, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to go and rechange this whole story, but I feel like you wanted symmetry on one side, but then you have all these really interesting story elements in which that symmetry doesn't really work. And then it comes together in the end for this really cool image of the lion and the unicorn. But it's like both these creatures helped her on her journey. Both these creatures were a gift from each family. But both these creatures throughout the story do not represent each family. Like, you know, if, say, the Noirs offered a wedding gift of a phoenix and they offered the lion or whatever, and the unicorn was something that the moon princess just had. I don't know. There's magic because the unicorn represents nature, and the lion represents, pride and or hunting prowess or something. The phoenix represents life and continuous cycles. I mean, like there's two both interesting things that can be connected to pride and stubbornness in good and bad ways. And then we have our falcon, and we have our dog, and we have our unicorn. Because we also have her little horse, which I thought may have been some sort of nod to her unicorn. It's not.
It's supposed to be the unicorn. It's supposed to be.
You can't just say it's supposed to be. That horse comes and goes, and it's just there. And then the unicorn keeps popping up like a ghost. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. No, it's meant to be like the Ralph transformation. You can't see it for what it really is unless you're
again,
like
fun, awesome, interesting symmetry. But then the falcon is just there. I think the falcon is shafted. I think there should have been a mythical creature that aligned with the falcon in the opening of the story. Because the falcon is doing stuff, man. It's like seeing things and telling them about stuff. And
I do think the Noirs get a general, like, they get framed as the antagonists pretty early in this film. And they don't do a whole lot to really work against that. The only issue too. Like the Merryweathers are also and like a lot of the time, because we're used to seeing the sort of savage group that dresses in all black as the bad guys and the more sophisticated man-or as good guys, I think it can kind of fly over your head. The movie is trying to make the Merryweathers bad too. The Merryweathers represent people who do nothing for so long that they basically just let everything fall into disrepair. Like, it's no accident that the entire manor is like got chip peeling and
curse,
like paint peeling
in the movie.
It is the curse, but the curse is an extension of the family's actions, right? So the Merryweathers are sitting over here thinking, we have the superior high ground. We don't need to do anything. It's not our problem. And then the Noirs over here, like, we, might try something, but it's not really all that important that we take the responsibility. It's more about just doing what we do. It's supposed to be head versus heart or left brain, right brain sort of dichotomy. So I will agree that the mythology of the magic that's associated with each family seems, but I think it has more to do with the like attitudes of the two families. Like the Merryweathers are like, I'm not going to care for the valley. I'm just going to care for my, which is why Ralph sort of like protects their boundaries, even though they should be considered their surrounding environment. And the Des Noirs just over here doing whatever the heck they want, the whole territory, rather than taking care of it. It's two different versions of neglect. And I think that's an interesting take. I don't know how well it is made clear in the movie that that's what's be happening, that's what you're seeing, but you see it in the general characters, you see it in their actions maybe, like both of the manors, both families live in rundown places. One just makes it more of a fortress than the other, feels more villainous because there's a dungeon. But it's like everything that the Noirs do is motivated by impulse and, you could argue, selfish need. Whereas the Merryweathers are almost locked up in, or in their intellectualism that they're dealing with.
Okay, yeah, had a little admin break there. Where were we?
We were talking about dichotomies in the families.
Yes.
Yeah, how neither of them were taking care of their responsibilities, both were
Yes.
blaming the other.
Yes.
There's definitely a sort of a left brain, right brain, heart mind
Sure.
division.
Yes.
Between the two of them.
Yes, and what I was about to say was, do you think it would be better served if Maria wasn't of either family?
No, I think it's important that she is of the family, but from the outside, where she has perspective, but she's still representative of one of them. Because, like, it's really easy to find new circumstances where, like, she's an orphan. She's looking for connection. She finds a family that she didn't really have before. One option when you find family that you haven't had before and you're looking for connection is to make their fight yours. And she resists, we'll call it indoctrination, and she instead solves the problem. I think that it's fine that she's within the family, and I think it's important to the story that she actually comes from beyond the boundaries of Moonacre, sort of like a ironic situation where, like, because she didn't live in Moonacre, she's able to appreciate the magic of it, and she is able to understand that both families are responsible and she can help them fix the problem.
I see that. I wonder if I can't help but wonder if there's something to the possibility of her not being a part of either family, like, and having less of a loosely implied eventual love story with Robin,
Right.
and being some sort of kid, maybe a step kid or an adopted kid of the now dead brother, and making friends on both sides, and that being the eventual bridge. I think to have
But that would
not
suggest that you always have to have an actual outsider bridge the gap between two warring groups, which is,
but like if
I
using
think, a bad thing to say.
but using that logic implies that you have to have some sort of magically gifted moonchild to bridge any kind of gap. Like a regular person couldn't
That's
just do
a metaphor.
I think there's another
For a person who is in a position to do it.
There's an added metaphor to, you don't have to be a blood relative to fix this. You know, like I think there's options here. There are options, I would say.
I think it has to come from inside the house, otherwise it doesn't really work.
I kind of get that, but then I can't help but ask, like, well, then what the hell was the problem the last 385 years? Oh, well, the separation. Like, but like, why? You know,
It's supposed to convey how difficult it is, but I agree that 300, it's extreme, right? And a lot of that's just because it's fantasy. You push it to the magical extreme, you push it to the fantastic.
I suppose.
I like that a lot of what's wrong in the movie is based off of assumptions, right? Like
Yeah.
both families assume negative things about each other. The original princess assumed that the families would be responsible with the magic that she shared with them.
Mm-hmm.
Loveday and Benjamin both assumed things about the other person that made it difficult for them to sort of make things up. He assumes that when she confesses right before their marriage that she's actually a spy, even though a
Mm-hmm.
spy would have no reason to tell him that. He's like, you're here to ruin everything
Mm-hmm.
and you've totally betrayed me. And then when he has a moment to sort of like push through that, he goes looking for her, but he never finds her, and she assumes he never looked.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the only reason Maria and Robin get along is because she forces him to listen, and he actually does listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't promise that he'll do anything, but the only reason he eventually aligns himself with her is because she makes him listen to what she has to say, and he actually does,
Mm-hmm.
which is the only way you get past assumption anyway. um I think that's kind of cool. I like that that's consistent in terms of like consequence. You know, there's consistently a thing that the characters are doing that makes the problem. And the only thing that solves the problem is when two characters resist the temptation to do that. She goes and enlists Robin for help, even though he is a part of the group that is supposed to be an enemy to her family, you know? Like there's an intentional choice by both of them to push back what they've been told about the other families. I think that's cool.
For sure. I think he should be a little more prominent in the story then.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you also want to have kind of the message of, you know, the new generation and we have no beef, so like who cares why our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors do kind of thing, like which is also I think a fair
I think
lesson.
it's important though that he actually is a bit of a problem at first for her,
I
because again,
think
it's about
being
pushing past real
yeah,
problems. You
being a
know,
problem
like
at
the fact.
first, yeah, but like the
Mm-hmm.
conversation of like, hey, this does not involve us. We can be something different, and like
Mm-hmm.
have him be more of a secondary character because like she's the protagonist because you know yeah she's the moon princess and whatnot. But like if we want to value this conflict and this resolution, I think that there should be more exploration of perspectives on both sides, which we get
That's
with
fair.
Romeo and
That's
Juliet,
fair.
but we don't
Mm-hmm.
get in this. So I think
Mm-hmm.
we could do that. They kind of do that with Loveday and Mr. Fantastic, but like oh not really. That's just the most recent issue that we are discussing. Also, how long has that supposed to been? Because they haven't aged a day. That looks like it's been
Yeah.
a fight that took place a month ago because she's living
Yeah.
out in this hole and looks great. Like my god, her hair still looks fantastic. It's like how long is that supposed to be? The timelines here are very confusing.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I think overall the story, like the timeline and the progression of the magic and whatnot, all of that is kept pretty mysterious because it's not really meant to be super literal. It's meant to be an emphasis on the themes and the message that the story is sending. I think functionally, what I've always found most interesting is the way that the story is very serious, but still very rooted in, I'm going to call it femininity. I think this is a epic story based in a female perspective that I don't feel like you get that super often. Like, not only does this movie pass the Bechdel test, I don't think it passes the reverse Bechdel test.
Ah,
Everyone's always talking about the Moon Princess
ah,
and or our main character Marie and or Loveday. Um, they are like the main character is always like the chosen one is always female, and she always accomplishes her goal through what you might call traditional feminine like strategies. You know, she falls in love and builds relationships with the people across the way. Like, she's not meant to pick up a sword and fight anybody. She can, and there are like physical conflicts that both moon princesses participate in, but ultimately like they it's about what you can do without war in order and actually actively against war to make
mm-hmm.
the story happen. It's about finding the beauty and the gentleness of nature and connecting with it in a genuine way. Like, a lot of this is very fairyland girlhood, and by sort of virtue find making all those things virtues, it solves the problem. Like the virtue of kindness, the virtue of compassion, the virtue of like forgiveness, all those things which are typically put in like a female world, even though they're not exclusive to women, you know, it's something that is generally put in the like the woman's sphere of the world, and it's the thing that saves the day, like in a real, very magical, literal sense. I think that's pretty cool.
Okay. I mean, sure.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to that. I guess I don't really have anything to say against that. But did you say the movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test?
It does.
Okay, I was gonna say it does. My only instance I can think of right away though was the French needlepoint, but I didn't think that counted.
No, the only thing that I think it doesn't pass the reverse Bechdel test, as in like I don't think there's ever a conversation that's between two men about something that's not a woman.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Cool. Do you take any issue with the magic of this world possibly killing off her parents in order for the prophecy to become fulfilled?
I think her mother is a mystery completely to the story, so maybe I have a problem with that one. I think the brother Merriweather, like not Benjamin, her father Merriweather, I think his life is supposed to have been a mess because he left. Like he goes into debt, and he kind of like he looks like on the surface he's fine, but it turns out when he dies he left nothing.
Right.
And
yeah. But that's a weird message.
I think that's
of
supposed
never leave
to
home.
be. Maybe. It's also about escaping responsibility, right? He, as part of the family, had the responsibility to fix the problem, and he didn't.
Oh, he couldn't.
Well,
That's
fair.
the other thing. The prophecy made it so that only a moon princess could do it, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, what the heck?
Maybe it's unfair punishment for him.
Like, what the heck? You're born maybe infertile? Damn you! Like, what are you supposed to do? That's not fair.
That's fair.
This magic system is whack. The other thing about this curse was like, hey, stop it. But the thing that they're supposed to stop is only caused because of the curse.
Well, it's caused because of nature's connection to the original Moon Princess, which was someone who, like, sort of supernaturally found, we'll call it like a Zen state with nature, right?
Sure.
Like she was one with the world,
Sure.
and the nature and the moon loved her so much they gave her a magical gift. And
Yep.
because she was perfect, she wondered, hey, I'll share this with everybody because everybody else is also perfect, right? And it turned out they were not.
Naive.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's a contradiction. I think that's supposed to be like, because like that's what happens when good people find good things. They share it with people, and then someone takes it and turns it into something that's dark, and we have to deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah, but I do take issue with magic across the board when it's like, hey, you there. You did a shitty thing, and so I will curse all of your descendants who have not done anything to me.
It only works when it's a metaphor for long-standing generational issues, which I think this definitely is.
I guess, okay, I guess, but like this magic is messy. It's messy magic. This
It is messy. It is messy.
Magic, and this was not my favorite movie that we watched.
Sure. I object to it being worse than Inkheart, though. I think Inkheart was an uncoordinated mess, and this actually has something that it tries to accomplish, albeit clumsy every now and then. It does actually, you can follow it from point A to point B to point C.
Okay, I will say that this one is smoother than Inkheart. It is more consistent than Inkheart. I don't think it's as interesting as Inkheart. And I do think that there's just as many questions, but in this one it's more confusing because the questions are more important.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do think
I'm not bothered by it
because of like the quality of like the kind of movie this is. I feel like there's a slightly higher bar, and I don't know. Like this is like a magical
Inkheart?
Yeah, because Inkheart is playful. A playful drama. This is, I would say, a fantasy drama. It's not as playful. There's not like a lot
You're
of
saying
silliness.
because it takes itself more seriously,
I
that we
think
should be able to take it more seriously?
I think because it takes itself a little more seriously, then we can take it a little more seriously, and therefore it should address things that matter to the movie.
I think Inkheart takes itself very seriously.
I think Inkheart probably took itself more seriously than the concept and the movie deserves. Because I think...
Which is why it's so bad.
I think Inkheart leans more into the comedy of it, because they drop a goon into the Arabian Nights, and they bring Toto out of Wizard of Oz, and like there's sillier
There's funny, goofy moments too, like when everyone's looking at the painting and no one can see what she's seeing.
But like that's more. I almost took that as, is this where they're gonna question whether or not she's legit because they can't see it? I think the only silly stuff comes from this heliotrope, and most of her silliness comes from her awkward out of placeness because of the awkward situation they're in. But it's not explicitly funny. There's humor in Inkheart, whereas in this there's more moments of levity in a dramatic, mission-driven kind of world. And so I can see why this would be considered a higher caliber of movie than Inkheart. But I think Inkheart has more fun. There's more interesting stuff in it, and this feels like the rising action of Secret of Moonacre is a steady incline for about 45 minutes. And do we ever peek over that hill? No. We plummet over a cliff, ride a unicorn, and then we're done. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like there's a climax of the movie. I don't feel like there's a falling action. I think it's too slow.
It is a little slow, but I've always felt like that was a part of the appeal. Like
I think that's an acquired taste.
Inkheart does a lot of really dumb, flashy stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Sure.
And I find that frustrating because it doesn't need to be there and it doesn't really do anything for the story or the characters, and ultimately kind of ends up distracting us from what we're supposed to be focusing on. Whereas Secret of Moonacre has an issue, and our main character is learning a whole bunch of new things. So, like, granted, she doesn't make any big moves, but she's constantly learning new things and then immediately acting upon that new information. And that, I think, is a more consistent and enjoyable storyline than something that's just, there's fire and then we're running and now there's a storm and we're running.
I guess I would say the rising action of Secret of Moonacre is just the roller coaster going up is slow and the incline is not very steep. For Inkheart, we have a fairly steady rising action, but we switched rides halfway through, which is annoying and jarring, but it's still like consistent because we shift over to whatever her name is, the kid, but her rising action of the story is consistent and more dramatic because we're coming into her power and whatnot. It's a hard perspective change, which is still an issue. All that to say, at the end of the day, personally, I don't think it matters. Stardust was great, Pagemaster is awesome, and Neverending Story was glorious. Love that one. That was beautiful.
I did not expect you to enjoy that one as much as you did.
Let me tell you right now, Mac, I didn't either. I was so ready to shit on that weird movie with the weird dog dragon, but that movie was charming as heck. I really enjoyed that. Stardust was hilarious and very fun. Absolute charming situation. The ghosts were hilarious. The Hobbit I would watch again, maybe play a drinking game. If I was playing a drinking game.
Okay.
I do not feel a desire to watch The Last Unicorn again. And
Tragic.
Nor do I The Dark Crystal. I think I would sooner watch Dark Crystal.
That one's at the bottom of my list.
Yeah, I would maybe watch Dark Crystal
Hobbit might be at the bottom of my list.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I get that you have a connection to The Last Unicorn. I don't, and The Weird Tree is too much of a put-off for me. And
I just forget about it. Every time I watch it, it surprises me because I forget about it.
Yeah, that's painful. So, yeah, but I mean, this was fun. I am glad we did this. This was, I think, a good, not a palate cleanse, but a nice change of pace from what we have done previously.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was nice to sort of explore not really another genre, because I feel like we do get around genres a lot, but we do a lot of like what's essentially mainstream stuff.
Yes.
Stuff that we've talked about before. They might be technically like cult movies, but they're like well-known cult movies, you know?
Well, it's good we're not going to do any well-known fantasy movies next.
No, we want to stay away from that.
Yeah,
crazy.
nothing popular or well-known.
Nothing,
or depending on...
nothing like a household name with like lots of franchise or merchandise.
Yeah, nothing currently really controversial on it as well, for reasons that are...
Nothing that like foundationally changed people's childhoods, you know?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing like that at all. We'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It feels appropriate. It feels like it kind of works. It's a little bit of a connection.
I think I do think. We are going to have to put a disclaimer either in the beginning of each episode or in the description of each, which I will do. Because we have to. Yeah. We just kind of... Yeah. That's just the world we live in now. I think we're done with this one, though. Clearly.
We're done. Yeah. It's a will, and you can die.
Let me think about this. Let me think for a second, trying to be objective. No, it's not a whale. It's a C minus.
Whale.
It's a C minus. For me, it's not a whale. I think it's a huge, fair, fundamental aspect of the movie as to why it is she is a moon princess, and they do not elaborate on that.
It's because she has the opportunity. That's the only reason.
That doesn't make any sense.
The opportunity and the temperament.
She clearly has magical abilities that other people don't.
Yeah, because it's Moonacre, and they're willing to like it. There are some people who are peacemakers, right? In the same way, there are some people who are constantly warmongering.
So wait, you're saying she doesn't have powers, but the magic acknowledges her?
Yes, like nature. Like the original Moon Princess didn't have powers. It was like nature acknowledged her and loved her, and so it gave her like an advantage.
Okay, well this movie is sexist then.
Yeah. In the same way that other things are often sexist against women.
Well, I mean, yes, but it's weird because this movie is sexist against women.
Oh, we just talked about how this movie didn't pass the reverse Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay, see, in my mind, this makes it even weirder. Like, why couldn't Robin fix everything? Anyway, that's it. For me, not a whale. Not a whale. Not a whale.
It's like a B+ in my book. I love it. I think it's magical. I would acknowledge that it is not perfect, but it's definitely a whale for me.
I think giving it a B+ is padding that grade quite a bit. We are glossing over some major narrative issues.
No, I think the themes are...
You are...
With the exception of the weakness at the end, I think it makes its point.
Themes are lovely, but you can't just do the theme. You gotta look at how it's put together.
That's what mythology and fantasy are all about.
But we aren't a mythology fantasy podcast. We are a movie podcast, and we are discussing the movie. The movie has flaws, and you know
You're arguing that there is only one good way to write a movie plot right now.
I am not. I am simply
saying... You
saying...
absolutely are.
I'm not advocating for one specific way. I'm just saying that there are still things that should have been discussed or explored or elaborated on that hurt the movie. And they do. And you know they do.
I want some more explanation, but I do not think it sinks the movie that much.
It probably... See, that's why I gave it a C-. I don't think it's a D or an F, but I think you walk away confused.
No, I don't.
You don't walk away confused? Is it because you read the books?
No, although I would like to read the book.
Oh, you haven't read the books. I assumed you did read the books. Fine. Well, I'm still a C- for now. It could be something that changes in time.
Yeah. You say that.
I do say that, because it's possible.
Okay.
All right, bye. That's us.
That's it.